Calling to order this evening, September 4th, 2024, our regularly scheduled work session. We'll start off with a call to order and roll call. Ms. Checo, would you help with roll call?
Councilmember Chmielewski.
Present.
Councilmember Cerna.
Here.
Councilmember Barton.
Here.
Councilmember Elam.
Here.
Councilmember Fry.
Here.
Vice President Kingsley. Here. President Sokolowski.
Here.
Mayor Aronson.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I have no announcements this evening, and it doesn't look like there's any special presentations this evening for this work session. So we'll begin with our council business. We'll get started with conducting an interview for the vacancy for the Friends of Conshohocken Parks. I'll turn it over to Ms. Kingsley to start us off. Harry, would you mind coming up to the table for us? Thanks for coming in.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, hi Harry, thanks for coming in. I see the one piece of down here, obviously you're very familiar with Mary Woods Park.
Oh, yeah.
So what other parks in the area really interest you?
Sutcliffe Park, obviously. Growing up right in the area, we would go to Sutcliffe Park quite a bit. And seeing the renovations for both Sutcliffe Park and the Marywood Park have been something that have really interested me. A little bit about myself. I grew up around here, went to PW, I graduated in 2012, and I went to Penn State. And after Penn State, I moved on back, and then I moved to actually Alexandria, Virginia for about 6-7 years. And I recently moved back about 4 or 5 months ago, and Conshohocken seems like such a different place, and I'm amazed at the growth and the change, and I really embrace that, and I would love to be a part of that. And it's been great to see, and I know that all of you have played such a crucial role in that, and it's great to see, so I'm excited.
Do you have any particular thing you'd like to see happen in any one of the parks? Any improvements or programs? I know it's hard to
Yeah, that's
go on the spot.
No, that's honestly any type of fundraising that we can do. I know that the parks obviously look fantastic, you know, from what they were and what they are now. And I think that anytime you look at a park or anytime you look at a building or even a project, there's always room for growth. And it's you know, great to see that there has already been such growth already, but seeing that there could be more and there could be any opportunity for more, that's something that I'm very, very interested in, something that I'm really focused on.
Anybody else want to ask Harry a question?
Have you had the opportunity to meet with Brian or sit in any of the meetings of Friends of Conshohocken Park?
So unfortunately, no, I have not yet. I have participated and volunteered at the Conshohocken Arts Fest and Car Show for the past 6-7 years. So even though I did live in Virginia, I always made time to come up for those, which is amazing. One of my favorite things to do in Conchi. So,
how'd you come across Friends of Conshohocken Parks? How did that get on your radar?
So actually, I was talking with Yaniv here, and I said, hey, you know, after all of these years of coming up and volunteering for the Arts Fest and the Car Show, I wanted to be a little bit more involved because, you know, I live 2 blocks away, right in the heart of Conshohocken, which I love, by the way. It's great. I love the location, love the area. And he said, hey, you know, there's actually a vacancy in the Friends of Conshohocken Parks. And I thought that was a great, you know, foot in the door, so to speak, for, you know, giving back to the borough that has given so much to me. And I, you know, like I said, we talked a bit about it, and I was really interested in it, so I reached out to Brittany, and here we are. Yeah.
Harry, one of the big things that the Friends of Conshohocken Parks does is solicit and raise and receive donations for our parks. Do you have any experience working with anything like that?
So actually with the Arts Fest and the Car Show, that we would be fundraising for the Art League. So over the past 7 years, and again, this is more of a rough estimate from just going for the raffle and for, you know, T-shirt sales, any type of souvenirs, we've collected I was a part of that, about $2,500-ish across, 6-7 years. And again, this was just a rough estimate, but I have experience in that. Again, more on like a ground level. But I would like to see where, that goes, and I'd like to see more of that, and more facets of fundraising. So I have experience, and a good deal of it, but in terms of the depth of it, too much.
Thank you.
Of course.
Anyone else have any questions?
No.
Thank you for your time, and thanks for coming in tonight,
No problem. Appreciate the
getting
time.
to know you,
Absolutely. Yeah, it was great meeting everybody.
volunteering, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, we do have another interview for the vacancy on the Marywood Park Commission, so I'll turn this over to Ms. Barton and John Pedicino. Did I butcher that? Pedicino.
It's Pedicino.
Pedicino. It's the Italian part of it.
Hi, John. It's
How are you?
nice to meet
Yes, you too.
you. We've chatted online, but
I know.
it's all, and that's kind of nice. How do you see the Marywood House and things that we might be working on and your involvement in that?
Sure. So my background is in finance from an educational perspective, but also have had time in local government in the past in White Marsh, longtime resident there. I think the history of it is really important. I'm a big believer in preserving space, making sure that those ideals that began back in over 100 years ago are a part of what the council understands is the remit of the commission. And I think from that, it's really just how can I make sure that the commission is whole in the sense of what else can we do to promote it, keep it in good shape, and making sure the dollars are flowing to it.
How would you see them creating more events?
Yeah, I mean, my background for the past 10 plus years has been in marketing and communications. I mentioned White Marsh Township. I was a board member on their media advisory board, communications and advisory board there for 2 years, helping them create better ways to not only market to people what events look like, but as you all know, you've seen what's on Joshua and Germantown, that big board, and things like that. But I think it's not only being a part of the community, but it's also getting very much so more involved in how we can communicate those things outside of just sending out a bulletin that goes in the mail. So how do we gather email addresses? How do we actually bring together folks that are new? I live down on Washington Street, so you have a lot of college kids and different kind of environmental factors or change that happens every 8 months or whatnot. But I think involving more people in those events, and I think what the last gentleman said with events like we've had very recently, Conshohocken does a very good job at marketing. I think they're there, but I think there's that little extra step that I could help solidify. And that's my professional background.
Ralph or Tina?
Do you know much about the legacy of Marywood Park and Marywood herself?
Yeah, I was able to read a little bit more into that, which was honestly something I did not know. And I thought, what a place to have gatherings, to have nurses and the Red Cross and all these other, organizations come meet and have that meeting there as an open environment for a discourse and also for, conversation and engagement. That is something I strongly believe in to this day. I love that it's continuing to be a place for that.
Yeah, I ask because, one of our mottos is to preserve our history.
Yeah.
And we do have a lot of new people in Conshohocken that don't necessarily know the history. So I do see the Marywood Park Commission not only being responsible for the house, but maintaining the legacy and being able to help educate the public on the legacy on the
Yeah,
house.
I'll I'll tell you, just from my perspective, I was kind of in your shoes. I'm on the commission now, as a vice president with Councilperson Anita, Councilperson Barton. But I didn't have a true appreciation of the house itself, much like yourself. But getting to know the people on the commission, it's really a great group of people, and it's really like a big brainstorming session. So I don't necessarily have a big question for you, because you're the kind of guy with your experience that looks like it would make a ton of sense to have somebody like that to actually merge my rambling thoughts with actually somebody who could create something interesting for people to look at. But yeah, thank you for your interest in it. I think it's a very good thing. Why the Marywood Park Commission? How did you see that? Or that's the only question I guess I'd have.
Yeah,
for
that's a
you.
great one. So I had been there many times. I'd been there back during 2020 elections for events.
Okay.
I'd been there with my niece and my sister. I've utilized the park system there, the park itself. So, and I've known about it being Lafayette Hill native. So the vacancy I found myself.
Okay.
And I thought this could be a good opportunity to give back and utilize the skill set I have to do something
Very cool.
do something good.
Good. That's good stuff. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thank you.
Ralph.
Anyone have any other questions? Do you have any questions of the board?
No, I appreciate the questions and thank you for your consideration.
Absolutely. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that will conclude our interviews for this evening. There are no votes required this evening for this, okay. All right, next item on the agenda this evening is under Manager Matters, and we'll be discussing the Marketing Services RFP results. So Steph, would you mind going over the responses and kind of filling us in on where we're at with that process?
Yep, sounds good. So we, just as a reminder, we advertised an RFP for social media and marketing services on June 24th. We received 9 proposals, so 9 responses to that RFP. The price ranges for those 9 RFPs go from $24,000 per year to $180,000 per year. So I'm going to walk you through the 9 different proposals, just some quick facts about each one. I did prepare a bid tabulation for you based off the RFP responses. It was in your meeting upload. It was broken down into specific categories. You have the firm name, the contact information, location, the specifications of the RFP, the tailored response to the borough if they did or did not, the specific expertise that they called out in their RFP response, their overall approach that they presented in the RFP, the cost, the proposed hours, and then I, of course, added some admin comments based off our assessment of each of those RFP responses. So the goal for this evening, after I go through each one of them, is to work through the list to get down to 3 firms. And if we can get down to those 3 firms that are selected, then we would ask them to come in for interviews. And that interview process would take place in conjunction with our budget process conversation. So we would have a placeholder in the potentially 2025 budget for this service to be included. So that's our goal for this evening. So as I said, there was 9 responses to the RFP. There are a few firms based off of price alone, along with some of the information that from an administrative position we have eliminated from the conversation. So I'm going to go through those first. And if anyone feels differently off of those firms, then we can move the list around. But the firm Raftellus was located in New York. Our account would be managed remotely from Northern Virginia and Denver. The price was listed at $95,743 a year, which would include travel costs. From an administrative perspective, we felt that the firm was more extensive in public relations for public agencies as opposed to what we were looking for, which was really that marketing avenue. In evaluating the RFP, again, it seemed like it was more geared towards individual campaigns that may be problematic, more PR focused. So from an administrative perspective, understanding the conversations that I've had with all of you to date, that firm made it on my do not move forward list. So does anyone disagree with that assessment? Okay. The next was Grimm and Grove. They are based in Philadelphia. They were at $145,000 a year. They did work with entities like Pico and Aqua. Some of the things that stood out for me in the RFP was there were some typos and some redundancies. There was a picture of the West Conshohocken Borough Hall, and it really felt like while they did do like a deep dive into discovery in terms of strategy and foundational work, it didn't feel like the right fit for me if I, again, was comparing it to the other firms that responded. So anyone feel differently about that firm?
No, I would say that was a bit of a faux pas on their list.
Okay. The next one was Banner. So they're located in Washington, D.C. Again, this was very heavily public affairs. They're at $180,000 a year. That's outside of our price range. And they did repeat in the RFP that if it was necessary, they would send a team member to the borough, and that's not really the relationship that we're looking for. And then the last one on that list was Purple Gator. They are located in Berwyn. They did not include a fee proposal, and there was a note that was added that there would have to be a conversation in terms of what the services would actually be to provide. However, if you look at the other RFPs that were provided, some of them even went into creative concepts already for the borough just based off the RFP alone. And therefore, to have gone to that extent that some firms went to, and Purple Gator not providing a fee structure for us to compare it to, they were, in my mind, eliminated because that's the point of the RFP process. So those were the 4 firms from an administrative perspective that were removed from the equation. Is there anyone that you'd like to add back into the list, or are we comfortable moving forward with the other 5 firms in terms of discussion?
I'm comfortable. I agree with everything you said.
Okay. Okay, well then we'll keep moving right along. We have 5 firms then that are up for discussion this evening to determine if we can get it down to a list of 3 to interview. The first company is Neff. They are located in Philadelphia. They took an approach that was very resident-centric, a resident-centric marketing strategy. They focused a lot on key audiences, strategic social media campaigns, graphic support, a web presence, and the analytics that go on behind that for the proposed services and community surveys. They were priced at $56,769 a year. They focused not only on increasing awareness of borough services and events, but also reinforced Conshohocken's reputation within Montgomery County. So that was something that stood out to me that the others did not touch on. They have worked with government agencies before. The proposal was streamlined and organized. It was easy to follow. They did reference, they have worked with individuals that have worked with the borough. So they did go out of their way to specifically reference individuals that work with our team in different capacities outside of the marketing realm. So at least they have a personal, I would say, understanding of kind of how we operate and what our goals and objectives are. And they went they took the extra step of putting that into their RFP. So that was NEF. The Aliyah Hammond Consulting, again, located in Wyncote, so local. They were the cheapest firm. They came in at roughly $24,000 a year. The response was organized, it was concise, it was clear. It did not have as much, I would say, depth to it as some of the others may have had. But the response did, in a very organized fashion, capture the essence of the RFP successfully with providing a brief, defined action plan, which was appreciated. So I think if you're comparing, well, I'm not going to compare those two, but it's intriguing to determine someone who was able to develop an action plan for a significantly lower cost than the other firms, and I think that's kind of intriguing to understand kind of what would be different compared to the other firms and what are you getting for your money. The next marketing firm is B Marketing. They are located in Conshohocken. They clearly have local knowledge because they are located in the borough. They understand the community and the goals that we're trying to achieve probably the best simply due to their location and their experience. They are at roughly $38,400 a year. That does not include quarterly video production, which would be additional costs. So really, if you add that in, since it was kind of piecemealed in, you're looking probably more in like that $42,000 to $45,000 range. In terms of their approach, they did go through phases that they spelled out nicely. There was a gathering info, strategize, execute, their B playbook. You do get access to a live dashboard in terms of reporting and analysis that not everyone offered, so that was something that was unique. And the only thing I will say from, and again, this is more just of an admin evaluating it and maybe what the end product would end up looking like. For me, the proposal was a little bit busy and a little bit cluttered. And I just think we have to, if B Marketing were to come in, that would be, in terms of visual presentation of what you're trying to do in terms of your messaging, we'd have to make sure that that was very clear, that the way we operate is very strategic and streamlined. And I understand that this is a creative aspect to that, and so maybe that is something we're looking for because it's different, but it is different. Okay, any questions on that?
I have a question. Did any of the other 4 firms offer video production?
Yes.
Okay.
They do, however, they did not break it down to the extent that B Marketing did. And B Marketing has your it's like your B blueprint, your B videography, your B playbook, so there's all the different.
So it's a la carte.
It's a la carte. It's a la carte for the extras, and I'm building that into that like $38,000 to $45,000 range. So still on the lower side. We then have WD Strategies. So they are in Huntington, PA. They have staff that are located more towards Harrisburg, Pittsburgh, State College, and Scranton. They focused a lot on branding. They did provide detailed comparables, including strategy and case studies. So this was the only entity that kind of gave you some depth when it came to comparing to current clients and case studies. It was more technical and data-based than the others, and it was not as local as some of your other options. And they came in at $71,760 a year.
When you say case studies, what specific cases?
So they showed basically an entity that had an issue, and they provided the marketing solution that they implemented for that company, and then what results were generated out of that from like analytical data.
Was it a business or was it a, like, public entity, like where?
There was a mix of both.
Okay. Within that one case study?
There was multiples.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was there anything comparable, like governmentally, like we're looking at, or no?
No.
Okay.
There were some, I would say, like public libraries or some other like nonprofit organizations that you could possibly, but
Okay.
no, not
Okay.
one for one.
Okay.
And then the last one is Savvy Marketers. So they're located in Princeton, New Jersey. They were at $79,000 a year. This RFP response provided a clear objective and actually went so far as to provide a preliminary creative concept, which none of the others did. It was the only response that provided that content. So it was an innovative idea. It was specifically kind of the marketing concept that would be implemented in Conshohocken if that's the direction you wanted to go. And it provided different methods by which it would implement that concept.
Could you tell where they picked the concept up from? Like, did they do research on Conshohocken and say, this could be something we could dig into and here's how we could dig into it? Or was it something?
So I would say that there were, some of the entities that are already on our list that we're not moving forward with clearly did like a skim over of, generalized Conshohocken, kind of what our phrases are and what we're looking for, and they harped on some of the initiatives that are associated with the borough, but not necessarily the Borough of Conshohocken. Savvy Marketers went a little bit deeper than that, where they really went into this whole concept of live, work, play, and grow, which that was kind of a phrase that we started discussing at the end of last year. So that told me that they watched some videos or read some minutes or documents, et cetera. They went a little bit deeper than the rest, I would say.
Just to
Yes.
I don't want to get stuck. They're not saying that we're buying that concept. That's not the only thing. They're saying we've gone far and have done the work and think this is a good idea, but this showcases what we do, I think is how.
Yeah, I don't know if we necessarily, that's the direction that we want to go in, but it was at least an innovative attempt at trying to
Pique our interest.
Without
our
without
interest,
having
without
debriefing
ever
any of us or
meeting,
anything.
talking. This is someone just reading information in an RFP and doing whatever research they wanted to do.
Did they speak at all about outcomes and how they collect outcomes data or anything?
So they did talk about, yes, they have the web track. I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong thing. They have the strategy development, the content creation, the execution. They have the monitoring and the reporting. They actually provided a list of deliverables and what the expectations from their end would be before meeting with us, and then they would tailor them to them. They have worked with some local global brands on campaigns, which is slightly different than the rest. And they did focus a lot on driving website traffic. So they provided a slightly different, I would say, flavor than the rest.
Sorry, when you're saying they, you're saying?
Savvy Marketers,
Savvy
LLC.
So all five in this list do provide for monitoring, reporting, and on everything. So there's going to be phases with any of this. There's the research phase that they're going to do, whoever they is, the implementation phase, and then once it's implemented, it's a long-term how it's managed and how we interact with them for the long term. So reporting, sorry, I just cut you off, but data collection and reporting is an important part of it that all of them have included.
So, I guess my question would be, like, anytime we're spending money in my business stuff, in my professional life, it's always talking about a return on ad spend and what the KPIs are to measure what's actually being what we're spending and what we're getting back from it. Did any of them have any kind of direction on that? Because what I'm hearing is that this is kind of semi-uncharted waters for a lot of these marketing
Not-
companies.
Not semi.
Yeah, it
We
is.
can't find, I mean, it's safe to say we
It
can't
is.
find
So
any
it
borough
is.
that's doing this. So it's completely uncharted for,
Did any of them speak to what their concept of a return on the money would be and how they would measure that within that? Was anyone specific about that, or was it just kind of general, let's do a discovery phase, et cetera?
The majority of it was generalized. There are some entities on the list that we are considering to bring in to interview that did dive into the analytics behind that would illustrate a return on investment. So now we would have to set the expectations. So if you're looking for, let's just say, number of website, you're evaluating how many visits you have on your
Hits.
website or hits you have in social media or followers, whatever that may be, they're going to do that.
Yeah.
Some touched on that, some did not. And I think that we left the RFP open and broad enough because it's going to be, the whole process is going to be something that we've not done before.
For a nonprofit like a borough to track ROI for ad spend is really tricky. It's usually that you want to start measuring how many page views, times on pages, those sorts of things. What I'm curious about is that some of these look like they're talking about social media and a digital presence. Another one is talking about setting up a website, or is that going to be revamping the borough's website?
I think that we are looking for marketing. We are looking for, I don't know if we're necessarily looking to revamp the website. That's something that we would be internally evaluating because we're on basically like a 5-year cycle of, and we just had internal discussions about that. So I think this consultant would more or less be, how does the website enhance what the marketing strategy is, and does it fit? And while we're revamping the website, are they aligned? So I don't know if we're necessarily, like if we're talking about a la carte items, if the website design needs to be redesigned to hit the marketing goals that we're looking for, then so be it. But we are still a government entity, and there are still specific things that are required of our website in terms of how we communicate and what we're required to push out. So it can't be a strict marketing tool. It has to also meet the specifications of the borough code. So we're upholding, that is the point of the borough website, is to ensure that we are meeting borough code, state code, our ordinances, and that we're producing information that is applicable to our laws and regulations. The marketing, the website can be part of that overall strategy, but this is going to be somewhat separate.
Okay.
yeah, the overriding or overarching idea of this strategy is how do we reach our constituents, our community members? The website, and I'm going to repeat some of the things that Stephanie said, is set up to be a legal deliverable of information that is required by law. This is not. So there may be some small overlapping, but it's also why it wasn't listed in the RFP that, oh, we need a new website. That's right. We didn't want to we wanted to attract whole body views to this. So consultants that were going to come and look at everything, as opposed to a small website firm that says, oh yeah, we can do a new website for you, right? So and that's why, on one side there's creating it, which we don't really know what it looks like, right? We're not just building a building that's got 4 walls and a roof. We're creating this idea, and then monitoring it and adjusting it and moving forward and measuring it and coming up with, okay, what does it look like to be a good return on investment for us? And part of it, I'll speak for myself, is I'm learning through this process what they do and how they do these things.
Okay.
From my kind of thought process is you do this to solve for a problem, right? So one problem could be you don't have all of your activities or your resources filled. We don't have that problem in Conshohocken. So what is our burning platform that we want to be able to get out and engage with our public? And I think the idea for me is we've got lots of different generation buckets that we're not doing well engaging in and making sure that they understand what's available to them for their specific needs at the time. So how do you build on that? I think where you're trying.
You're exactly,
Get
I think you're exactly right from my perspective. And this was a broad RFP because there are pockets of our community that aren't on social media or pockets that are on parts. Some of the groups that were left off the 5 list talked about marketing to the greater area. Well, that's not what we want, right? It's the resident approach and the resident-centric approach, and you saw that with some of them. And I have no doubt that no matter who we choose, we may change our plan 6 months down the road, 18 months down the road, may need to be revised. I just don't have that answer yet. But absolutely agree that we have a mixed community and we need to communicate to them the great things that are going on. I've come up with this concept a little bit. It's almost like we're creating a non-for-profit local newspaper because we see where information isn't getting out. And for someone who has campaigned recently, the response door knocking was, "Oh man, that sounded great. I didn't find out about it till it was over." That was the driver of this vision. So
The reason I bring that up is because WD Strategies, looks like their expertise is in website setup, and then their approach is also for brand website, etc. Like, I would wonder how much were they talking then about general promotion.
Yes.
So as opposed to setting up a website, which is a completely different concept. Did their presentation delve into what they would be doing in terms of strategy or community engagement?
To WD Strategies?
Yes.
Well, you're rolling right into, if I'm going to evaluate NEF, Hammond Consulting, WD Strategies, and Savvy Marketers, I would recommend removing WD Strategies from that list and then moving forward with the discussion from there, if you agree.
Well, I guess that lends a question, right? This isn't a vote, I don't think.
Oh, no.
Right?
No, it's a discussion.
Right, so how do you want to have this discussion? I have my 3. I've been waist deep in this, and the good thing is I didn't know any of these, so it's not that I had a horse coming into the race, but I've read every word of every proposal multiple times.
The way I look at it is NEF and Hammond Consulting are kind of bracketed together for me, and WD and Savvy Marketers are bracketed for me. B Marketing is a local guy, so my default is to allow that person to, since they are local, I do like to promote people who are within the community and have a direct connection to there. My thought process is that would be somebody who I would like to speak with, considering they have a very direct connection to there. I look at WD Strategies, same way you do. Savvy Marketers, I would take that. They're not wildly different from a pricing end from what I'm seeing. So the Savvy Marketers coming up with a creative concept, even proactively doing it and pitching that speaks to that. So for me, between those, again, this is the way my mind works, so everybody can feel free to tell me this is not accurate. But WD Strategies and Savvy Marketers, they felt both price-wise and a lot of what they were saying similar in size. I would choose Savvy Marketers over WD.
I mean, Ralph, just to make it very clear, WD Strategies had one of the driest presentations for a marketing company, and Savvy Marketers had a bold, colorful, full of examples. I mean, it's not even a bracket thing. I thought Savvy was head and shoulders above WD.
Yeah, I was more looking at it as from a pricing end, because if you're looking at.
They are the
if
higher
You're looking at
end. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
$59.80 a month
Yep.
multiplied by 12, you're roughly
Yep.
in the neighborhood of 62 to 63.
That was my only drawback on Savvy. I thought Savvy had probably one of the best presentations, but
Yeah.
on the higher end of price.
Yeah, that was why I was saying it, because if you
Yeah.
look at WD at 72 per year versus 79, I think that's, and if Savvy was that much better, to know.
Let me add this, and I didn't run this past Stephanie yet, so please correct me if you disagree. I believe, so this isn't a proposal like, again, we're gonna build a building, we get 5 proposals and we take the lowest. I believe that we can negotiate with any and all of them and show them opportunities, or going through the process of doing the interviews.
Redesign.
Right, okay, hey, you know what? You listed 7 things you're gonna do for us. We love what you're gonna do. We only want 5 of them. The other 2 don't matter to us, that kind of thing. So I'm happy that we threw out the 180 and the ridiculous out of the question pricing. I'm not so stuck on now, if we get to the final negotiation and the final 3, and we've interviewed, and somebody says, nope, this is my number, and the other one says, I'll move to here, that kind of thing. I guess what I'm asking is, how do you want to do this? I mean, I have my list of 3 that I have. Do others have a list of 3?
I did like Neff, the first one, from the resident-centric, because they seem to hone in on part of what it is that we're trying to.
I would need to reevaluate the proposals again, but one thing that sticks out to me that's a concern working for a marketing company is the amount of hours per month. 20 hours per month, if you're doing things like video production and design and writing, is not very much time. So like even a small social media operation that, or even sending out regular monthly emails, those sorts of things, I think could very easily start approaching 20 hours per month. And then to do something like create a video, which, I mean, video is something we need, would go way beyond that. I don't know their methods, though. There may be a way that they're able to get it in there, but I know that often we do the a la carte thing for video because the video and doing regular other content like blog writing, designing ads, those sorts of things are very different beasts, and they can take very different amounts of time. So I just wanted to kind of point that out, that 20 hours a month, in my experience, it may not be enough.
So that was where I was looking at Neff, that 20 hours a month for $56,769 a year. That's a total of 240 hours versus 615 hours total down on Savvy Marketers for $79.5. So theoretically, if you extrapolated that, that's a hourly, you would be upwards of $150,000 in cost if you would ask Neff to do what Savvy Marketers is claiming they could do, with actually coming through with a good concept as well. That, to me, when I looked at that, just mathing it out, that was where I saw the difference in like that. The value for a Savvy Marketers for me eclipsed what I saw for Neff relative to the hours they were going to get.
Steph, could you pick up in any of it that the willingness to educate, right? So we have internal folks that we want to grow and be able to potentially learn from what it is that we choose to do here, and not necessarily have this ongoing forever. Did you get any sense that any of them are more proprietary and not interested in that from that perspective?
I think that all of the 5 that we're talking about made it very clear that they understand that there's an internal team and that they'll be working directly with the internal team. I did not find that an issue. If I thought there was going to be an issue, they were on the other list.
Okay.
So it might be, I don't know, do you want to just go around and are we saying the three, and if we have a majority, is that who we're interviewing? Is that how you'd like to?
Could we strike WD? Are we all
I
pretty
think
much off the
I'm fine
WD
with
train?
I am okay
And
with
then we're at least
striking.
down to 4.
We're down to 4.
Which one are we striking? The
WD.
WD?
I mean, we could also
And then
just,
can we agree that B marketing is in?
Yes.
I think from the local perspective, that would be the right thing to do.
Okay, so you're down to,
I will say, just on the record, they are qualified, right? We're not just
oh, yeah.
No,
putting-
no,
Of course,
I mean,
yeah,
they
yeah.
made it to
I
the
just-
table.
I just wanted to be, I think we're discussing aspects of others. Theirs was very qualified,
Yeah.
they're very local. That's why we're not talking as much about them.
I gotcha.
Wanted to say that in case they
Yeah.
watched it. So,
Yeah,
So we are down to Neff, Hammond Consulting, and Savvy Marketers, and we need to select 2.
So I have a question. Is there a reason why we need to do 3 and not 4? Is that strictly a time thing, or is it more concise, or for us to just focus in on 3? Because if they're that close, are we eliminating, like, a nitpicking where we might get more information from a presentation?
you're messing with Stephanie's rules.
I know.
That's not Susan.
So can I make a case to cut NEF and make our lives easy? I mean, one of the reasons we started this process is because our social media was just very government, right? Not fun. And my concern with NEF is they didn't bring the fun. They didn't look like they had engaging, yes, very professional, very qualified, great media contacts, but they didn't seem to offer the kind of engaging posting that we're looking for that the other 3 very clearly had examples of.
I mean, I'll say mine are Savvy Marketers, Hammond, and B Marketing. That's
me to a
what
T,
I was.
I didn't hear you, I'm
I'll
sorry.
say my 3 were Savvy Marketers, B Marketing, and Hammond Consulting.
Those are mine as well, yeah.
And again, I didn't deep dive into any of these. I'm just looking at it from a notes perspective and numbers perspective, and it just looked like it made sense.
Does anyone else have their 3?
So mine going through this were Neff, B Marketing, and Savvy were the 3 that I thought. And so it's interesting. I don't disagree with what Mary Yaniv said. I like how they do things. That's why I'm more on the one is really abstract and artistic. One is more pushing database oriented kind of. That's how I view Neff. So that's why they're on my list for that. So.
But you're not concerned at all with Adrian about 20 hours for 56,769 a year? That's where when he mentioned that, and that was why I was looking at that seems
I am.
okay.
At the same time, because this is an initial proposal, I would, because it was so well put together, and because they've effectively, the borough, who has had to work with many outside RFPs before, has appreciated their presentation in particular, I would at least want to speak with them or have them interviewed to see, one, verify that there's not going to be some hidden costs, but there is, I think, some value to getting things measured, like the reports, et cetera, because what gets measured gets managed. And in this case, like if we say, okay, it looks like our social media isn't doing well, they should be the ones to come to the table and explain to us how we can adjust that. It doesn't scare me, but it is something that I think we need to dig into to find out, is it going to be 20 hours? And how could they fill up that 20 hours?
So Adrian, do you have your 3, your list of 3?
Yes, Neff, Hammond, and Savvy.
So Steph, you said Hammond, you didn't think that they had the depth. Can you go into that a little bit more? I mean, basically, project plans have action plans. So all these companies probably have some form of action plans based on what it is. So they put their action plan in the proposal, the others may not have. But talk a little bit more about, you didn't think that it had the depth.
I don't know if I would say depth. I think that what I appreciated about the response to the RFP is that it was very organized, very concise, and very easy to follow. That I liked. I think that because it was an initial response to the RFP, it may not have needed all the bells and whistles that some provided. But the price is also attractive. But again, they did not go, and like if you look at B Marketing and Neff's and Hammond's is definitely somewhat, I would say, drier. But then you can also say, Savvy Marketer is a lot of brands, global brands, and that might not be what we're looking for. So there's something that I feel like you can nitpick from each one of them if you want to. It's kind of just, what do you think who's going to better serve the Borough of Conshohocken and what we're looking for? And there's nothing, you can bring in 4. You can break the rules.
I wouldn't try it.
The purpose of saying get down to 3 was so that we were getting down to a concise list that we're ready to interview and we're ready to make a decision if this is the path we're going to move forward. If you leave the door open, then you're not working through the process. So if you want to bring in 4, you can bring in 4. You want to make sure you're making the right decision. I said goal was 3.
I'm leaning to bringing the 4 in personally, because I think that each of them have a distinct something that we need to tease out a little bit.
Okay.
I'm not against that at all. These 4 that are remaining, there's none that I hate. I can't say, oh no, don't do anything. So,
Alright.
that's how I feel.
And I mean, also, with some of our other interviews that we've had in person, that did add another helpful perspective in getting to meet them.
And I think from your experience and Yaniv's experience, we can put together some questions that can tease out what it is we're not looking for, because that's really what we want to do, is tease out what we're not looking for.
I mean, if you have 4 good candidates, you interview 4 good candidates. I mean, that's what I would do, and I thought there was a rule of 3, by the way. Thank you for making that very clear. Now that I know that, I would say 100%, let's interview 4 if there's 4 good candidates. Yeah, I didn't know, rule of 3. It sounded like a real rule.
You're a rule follower.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm good with that.
What do you think, Stace?
Okay, so
I want to bring in the 4. I feel like it's close, and I think that there's a lot of information that we can get out of them by bringing them in. Like you said, the hours thing. Why is it just 20 hours? Can we add hours? Like, the video, what their ideas are. Because again, the main purpose is to get the information out to the residents, for the most part, and to however we're going to do that. And I want to see what they can come up with, because we are working with, like you said, a very large swath of age, from our older residents to our younger residents, and it's going to look different for each one almost. And how do we mesh that all together into one message that we can get out? And I think it's, just by looking at this, I don't think it's enough information for us to make that decision.
We'd write that down as question number 1, because I think that's great. I mean, how do they do that?
Just to continue on that point about the different, ages that we have in here, I think it was very important in our last council meeting. We had someone attend from the Marshall Lee Towers who is underinformed about the bus, because the Conchi cab, because perhaps it's so leaning towards digital advertisement that, you see, we all see it a lot on our phones, but people who are relying on print or anything along those lines, they only see it a few times. So understanding how these companies might approach that would be helpful.
Yeah. The other part
I'm
is,
good with the 4.
if we're looking at something also, just as a side note, that we're talking about getting stuff out into print, that's going to be a cost on us. That's not included in this cost as well, and that's something else that we need to figure out. How creative can they be to keep our costs as low as possible to get the information out to everybody?
Yeah.
Start writing down your questions.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna bring in 4. We'll bring in B Marketing, NEF, the Alia Hammond Consulting, and Savvy Marketers. We will invite them to come and interview. If they take the interview, so be it. But we'll bring in 4. If you have specific questions that you would like asked, you can write them down. If you would like them to share them with the group, if you want to send them to me and I'll compile them and get them out collectively, I can also, I'm more than happy to do that as well prior to the interviews.
What date are you thinking we might do the interviews?
So the interviews will happen in October. We were going to do them in the work session in October, but I think someone's not going to be here for that, so we'll push them slightly. So we'll probably do,
That's what happens when you travel the world.
I know. We'll look at either the voting, because we also have to, what the next steps on this is, now that we have our 4 firms selected and we have a range of what those dollars would be, you have a budget meeting in September and you need to see how that money fits into your overall budget. And if it's an initiative you're going to move forward with in 2025. So you're going to have that conversation at the end of September. And we will then invite the firms in for an interview, the 4 that you've selected, if it's something you're funding. So that's kind of how this process is laying out. You have selected 4, you'll discussing it, how it fits into your overall budget, now that we know the cap of the range of what you may be funding. Then we'll interview the 4 firms, and then if that's the direction you're moving in, you'll select a firm and we'll get them running so they're on board for 2025.
Will this be a public presentation interview?
Yes.
Okay, not an executive session.
No, it'll be an interview. They'll sit here, you'll interview them, you'll ask them questions, we'll ask the other firms to wait outside, and they'll come in one at a time.
Okay.
So that's a good point. For any of our residents that are watching this on TV and have questions that are specific to these marketing agencies, please send those questions in either to your council members or to administration so that we can get them on the list. What I found is if you give them questions up front, they actually can do some work to get the right answers rather than just trying to give you the answers from the cuff. So as in-depth as we can get, and that's where we need the residents' experience and everyone's experience in the field and industries to be able to ask the right questions.
Okay, so set the tentative interview date for the voting session in October.
And we're going to bring all 4 on that day just because of the timing and the budget.
Yep.
Okay.
We'll try to limit the other presentations, so that's the bulk of what you're doing that evening, if we can. Okay,
All right,
anything else on that?
a lot of work on that. Thank you for
Thank you.
It's a lot of
the
proposals.
leaders spearheading it.
We're good, right?
Okay, moving on.
Ready.
All right, next item on the agenda is to discuss the borough's 2025 minimum municipal obligations, the MMO. Steph, do you want to talk about the 2025
Yes.
MMOs?
Yep, so we have our 3 pension plans that will be in your 2025 budget. You are required per Act 205 to approve the amounts prior to September 30th. So this evening, I'm going to give you the amounts, and then they'll be back on your voting meeting for approval, and then they'll be put into your budget. So the police pension plan obligation is $1,237,078. The fire pension plan obligation is $57,975. And the non-uniform pension plan obligation is $342,567. Again, just discussion, they'll be in your budget for 2025, and they'll be back on your agenda at the September voting meeting for approval.
Any questions on the MMOs? Okay. Hearing no questions, we'll move on to the next agenda item. Consider approving 203 East 12th Avenue, LD 2021-01, Professional Service Escrow Release Number 1, which is the final release in the amount of $1,602.98 plus interest. That I will need a motion for.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
So I have a motion and a second to approve 203 East 12th Avenue in the amount of $1,602.98 plus interest. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is to consider approving tuition reimbursements for Officer Smith and Sergeant Hall for their 2024 fall semester. With that, I will need a motion first for Officer Smith in the amount of $3,997.50 plus the cost of books for the fall 2024 semester.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next motion is to approve the tuition reimbursement for Sergeant Hall in the amount of $1,878 plus the cost of books for fall 2024 semester.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. All right. Next item on the agenda, we'll be moving to legal matters. And this agenda item is to consider accepting the dedication and land swap for realignment of Washington Street in the area of 51 Washington Street land development. Mr. Peters, will you explain the deed of dedication?
Sure. So many of you will recall that when the Washington Street land development was approved, there was a road realignment. Britt, could you zoom in on the left side there? So council can see, you can see the dark black line, that is the 51 Washington property line. The striped piece of the road there is the road that we're talking about for purposes of dedication. The only reason it's been delayed is because we delayed recording the deed until the road was actually in to confirm that before we took dedication, the legal description surrounding the road is correct. It is now, as confirmed by your borough engineer, correct. So it is time to accept that portion of Washington Street. And then you can see in the top right-hand corner, could you zoom in on that, on the little road into the, so there is a small piece of borough-owned ground, which you can see with the dashed lines there, that we gained ownership of when there were land swaps with SEPTA to make this project possible. That little strip goes into the 51 Washington parking garage. The borough has no interest in owning the strip of land going into their parking garage. So we're setting this up as part of a, we viewed it and we continue to view it as a land swap for purposes of the road on the other side. So the intention is to also take care of that, of deeding that portion to 51 Washington, and we'll do it all at the same time. To actually effectuate it, you have an ordinance that you would consider in October, and that ordinance accepts the dedication, and then we'd also do a quitclaim deed to give that portion of the entryway to 51 Washington. And then there may remain after this, I may be back to you with some items from SEPTA, but at least with respect to the developer, we'll be able to release their financial security and close the project out. So I can answer any questions you might have. It's been a long time coming. But the legal descriptions are now finalized, so it's time to close things out.
Okay. Is there any additional cost to our borough operations from this?
Well, you would have the cost of maintaining the road, but you already have it, you know. So, no, there's no additional cost. This particular part is just a very annoying administrative piece that we have to take care of.
Okay.
And you know, obviously, you want to make sure that that road is a public road, and this will tie up that piece of it.
Any questions? All right, there's no vote on this evening. This was just informational for the ordinance.
Yes, so the ordinance will be back on the agenda on September 18th to consider authorization to advertise. And then the deed, the quitclaim deed, and the ordinance itself will be back on for approval on October 2nd.
And I think, Steph, are we also considering, we may be considering release of the financial security
Yes,
at the same
same
time?
time.
So we can finally close everybody wants the project closed out on both sides,
So that will close it.
Yeah, this is all we're waiting on. We were holding some financial security to straighten out these legal description issues, which are all now straightened out.
Is 51 Washington Street the one that just sold?
The Birch.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's the other one. Okay. All right, any other questions?
I just have one more thing to add, if that's okay.
Sure.
Dr. Kowalski. So we did, oh my gosh, I think it might be 2 years ago now, the Borough Council authorized the purchase of a new fire truck, and we used a portion of the ARPA funds for the purchase of that fire truck, and that truck has arrived. And so we have it in our possession. And I just want to give a little kudos to council, because when your emergency management team comes and presents an idea to you that is absolutely a necessity, and you say yes, and you find a way for us to get creative and fund it. We did get that truck. We paid approximately $750,000 for it. Today's cost would be roughly $1.1 million. So thank you. It is here. Our fire department is very excited. Our emergency management team is very excited, and we just wanted to pass along a thank you.
Let's hope we don't need it.
It'll most likely be in the service by the end of the week, and it's ready to go.
Isn't there some
was gonna say, are we doing
ceremony
housing or
that you
something?
push something on something?
Do you want us to push you down Fayette Street on the new fire truck?
No,
Break
isn't
a
there
bottle of
something
champagne.
about,
Firehouse.
yeah, the firehouse?
Can we break a bottle of champagne on it?
The guys.
No, I'm not kidding. I know we did one the last time. Is that something that the firehouses?
Our emergency team, fire team will let you know.
Okay.
They'll let me know.
All right. I didn't know if they planned for it. Thought it was pretty cool.
I think someone went on a ride, didn't they?
I don't know. I thought we pushed it across the threshold or something.
No, I think we went for a ride, too.
That's awesome. All right. Next up on the agenda is just council member and mayor matters. So we'll start with Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so we had the East 9th block party last weekend, and if you look at it, I mean, I thought I was walking into Fun Fest. It is insane what they were able to put together, and this is just a committee of residents on East 9th. So congratulations to them. It was amazing. They had a fire truck there. Just amazing water balloon fights, really fun day. And as you can see, Thomas is right back on the mayor circuit, helping out, coming to events. So thank you, as always, to our residents for pulling together these block parties. They're just always, like, we see the permit applications, but to see what they come up with is always pretty cool. So
I don't
thank you.
know. I think there should be competition, block party competitions. I think this one won this year.
And then these are shots from the movie in the park last week. We had Coco in association with the Hispanic Heritage Association. It looked awesome. Like,
It was a
these
good movie.
pictures are so cool. It was just really, everyone was just hanging out, having a good time, playing the movie. Past Thomas's bedtime, so it's just me, but it was really cool. And then all the families were also playing on the playground at the same time in the back there. So just a really fun event that really didn't exist a few years ago. So thank you to our team for putting that together. We also have our annual police shredding coming up, free to all residents. It will be Saturday, September 28th at the Coldwell Banker Realty Office, 1207 Fayette. And There will also be, we will be collecting canned goods and donations for CNC. So please come out. We have the truck for 3 hours, so we'd love to see you. And we like putting our police officers to work lifting those boxes. And then finally, we have our annual bingo at the VFW on the 19th. And Sarah's already lining up, probably some of you actually, but also a lot of our business owners are going to come by. She's been all around town buying gift certificates to local businesses, kind of keeping in the tradition of when we started this during the pandemic. And we hope for just another really fun night of bingo under the stars at the VFW. So thank you.
Great, thank you. Ralph, anything? Stace?
I'm good, thank you.
Kathleen?
I'm good.
Adrian?
Yes, we just had an email come in during this meeting titled Officer Commendation. It is a thank you email addressed to Chief Lennon, and it is we're CC'd on it. A local resident was very grateful for the 2 officers on night shift yesterday helping corral his dog who had escaped. He said he was really appreciative. He wouldn't have been able to have gotten the dog without the officers spotting him, and that him and his wife were finally able to sleep easy. So thanks, Conchi PD.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Alan?
Nothing from me.
And I have nothing this evening. Do we have any public comment this evening? No? Okay. Hearing no public comment, I will call for adjournment. We have a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
All in favor? Aye.